Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Read 'em and Weeps. I'm your host Nisha. You're probably wondering why I'm not moving. Unfortunately, I thought I recorded my third book review and I didn't. I was talking to my phone for 40 minutes and nothing recorded. I also didn't have any time to re-record, so I just decided to talk in a mic for you. I did have an old recording, but it's a bad recording, so I'm very sorry about how chaotic this third review is. I promise you that later on with my other reviews, it won't be as awful as this. So bear with me. Today, I will be reviewing Born Wicked. Huge spoiler warnings for the review. I might sprinkle a little bit of information here and there where I'm going to try my best not to talk about everything. I rate this book a 3.5 out of 5, and here's why. So let's start with the characters. So with this book, we have Kate, who is our main character, and the story mainly revolves around her, and more importantly, her sisters, Tess and Mira. Let's talk about Kate. Kate is riddled with anxiety. She is basically given the role of mother in the household ever since their own mother had passed away a few years back. So she has to be on her sister's butts, make sure that they don't practice magic outside of their rooms and they don't ever get caught by the Brotherhood or else they get sent into an asylum or killed. And that kind of drives the younger sisters up a wall, considering the fact that the three sisters have been locked up in their house ever since their mom passed away. We have Mira, and I would say she's very spirited. She's the only one out of the sisters who doesn't really fear being a witch. She would rather embrace it if it wasn't for Kate being so neurotic. Out of the younger sisters, Mira's the one that usually fights back with Kate. Mira decides to just live her own life and hang out with people who value what she has to say and find her interesting, which causes a huge dilemma for Kate and Mira's relationship towards the end. I like the fact that she's able to stand up for herself and wants what she wants and she goes for it. Tess, on the other hand, she's the youngest and the most forgotten. I think the author herself forgot that Tess was a thing if it wasn't for all the prophecy talk. We don't really hear much from Tess. She's just kind of there, and I don't remember too much of her personality other than her being the mediator between Kate and Mira when they're fighting. She also sees Kate as her mother figure since her mom passed away when she was very young. So she's not as rebellious as Mira. She listens to Kate because Kate's basically like the third parent in the house. But I like Tess. Tess has yet to bother me. This book is a trilogy, so hopefully we'll get more personality from Tess in the second or third book. There's a lot of side characters in this story, and it's going to be very long if I were to sit down and talk about every single person. So I'll only talk about maybe like a handful of them. You have the two main love interests for Kate, and honestly, I could talk about them both at the same time because they're both the same character. The two main love interests are Paul and Finn. They're basically the same character. They're just there to waste your time. Paul's a little bit more arrogant, he's a little bit more slug and super jealous, while Finn is more sweet, if that's the right word. Like, he's more cautious and protective. He's meant to be like the nice guy, the soft guy. There's a bunch of other characters in the neighborhood that live with Kate and the sisters. Three that stick out the most are Sachi, Rory, and Brianna. You know them pretty well off in the beginning of the book, but later on in the chapters, they get really interesting. I don't want to talk too much about them because a lot of spoilers are going to be involved, but we have Sachi, who's the daughter of brother Ishida, and he's like the main antagonist in Kate's life with her sisters and also with Finn's family as well. Rory is just kind of the drunk girl of the town, and she somehow got super lucky into being engaged to one of the wealthy boys in the neighborhood. Her personality is like really brash and rude and sloppy. Sachi is like her best friend, and she kind of like puts her under her wing, takes care of her, protects her, watches over her. Brianna is Rory's cousin, and you meet and hear about Brianna very early in the chapters. She's this girl who suffers from visions. She's able to see the future, and no one believes her, and obviously assumes that she's a witch. So they took her away to the asylum, and unfortunately, trigger warning, in the asylum she tried to commit suicide, and now she's released back into town. So she just kind of wanders around talking to herself and giving out bits and pieces of like information to people, especially to Kate. So those are the three girls that are important into the story that you will meet throughout your chapters. We have Sister Elena, and she's about 18 years old, so she's a little bit older than the girls, but from Kate's age, she's like 2 years older. So you have Sister Elena, who comes into the girls' home to help them out in regards to being proper women so they could be suitable brides. She's very secretive, and she's also really pushy. Throughout the whole entire book, she's constantly stepping over Kate's toes and trying to be the most dominant figure in the younger sisters' lives. I was really cautious about Sister Elena and her intentions. She comes off as caring and sweet towards the younger sisters, but she's very, very stern and rude with Kate. Okay, so now let me give you a quick summary of the book. We start off our story with Kate, the eldest of the Child sisters, and it's her duty to protect her sisters and make sure that Tess and Mura do not use their magic in public. She made this promise to her mother on her deathbed, that whatever it may be or whatever happens throughout the lives, that their sisters do not get caught by the Brotherhood. A little background on the Brotherhood. They're kind of a caricature of fathers and priests of a Catholic or Christian church. They are the antagonists of this story. They kind of take over the little village that Kate and her sisters live in. They basically make the women of the entire town childbearing wives. Like, none of the women are allowed to like read unless it's for the Bible. They're very old school. They want to make sure that their women are pure and that they abide to the laws of their religion. It's very Puritan era. If you know anything about like old school pilgrimage, kind of like the Crucible, their Sunday mass or church lessons are constantly teaching the girls right from wrong. Wrong mostly being what you shouldn't be doing and what's considered witch-like, and if you're doing certain things or if you happen to notice like spells being cast or you're feeling a certain type of way, that you have to tell the Brotherhood and let them know so that way they can capture the witches and destroy them once and for all. They're really hung up on this whole witch chase. Like, they have the whole town scared out of their minds because if the girls are to act improper, they can get called out and taken away to the asylum, or worse, they could just get hung or burned and called a witch when really they're just being a normal girl. So the women in the town are very fearful, and they do the best that they can to just follow the rules and be perfect, quiet wives. Kate does her best to protect her sisters from acting out, but it's really like big shoes for her to fill, playing the part as the mom and also playing the part as the sister, and she's just tired of the responsibility, and her sisters are tired of the constant like helicoptering in regards to their magic. So one day, Miss Corbett, who's their nosy little neighbor, comes in and is like talking to the father, being like, I have an idea that's going to help you and your daughters out. I think you should hire a governess, and she's could come in, teach your girls how to be proper women since they're motherless, so that way they could be perfect to be married off to. Kate doesn't like this idea, and she would rather have the governess and Miss Corbett out of her house. but it seems like the idea is already like set and ready to go in her father's eyes. And Kate's just kind of like, man, I gotta deal with this. Kate can stop this from happening with just like doing some mind magic and like erasing this event in her father's mind, but she decides against it because her mother always taught her that like using mind magic is manipulation and it's wrong. In this world, the only duties that the women do are just basically like being housewives, and if they don't want to be that, they can go and be a sister at the church and go and join the sisterhood. The sisterhood is basically like going to a nunnery. You don't marry anybody and you have to devote yourself to the religion and its cause. And Kate is kind of leaning towards it because if she's able to convince her younger sisters to join a sisterhood with her, at least they could all stay together. It's the same choice that their mom had made, but for some reason decided to break away from the sisterhood and marry their father. In joining the sisterhood, they can also continue their education. So it kind of seems like a win-win. By the time a girl turns 16 years old, she is ready for the rest of her life. And that could be either joining the sisterhood or becoming a wife. She needs to sit down and pick. And if a girl is unable to decide or have a suitor in line waiting to marry her, and if she doesn't pick the sisterhood, the brotherhood would basically pick a husband for her. And that could be a 80-year-old man with 5 children. Kate's more stressed out about the fact that like whatever her outcome ends up being, she won't be here to protect her sisters and make sure that they don't get captured by the brotherhood. One day Kate gets a letter in the mail from a mysterious ZR, and she doesn't know anything about this person or anyone in town with that name, so she's kind of like, what the heck? So inside the letter, it's basically saying, hey, you and your sisters are in danger. You can find out more information in your mother's diary, so look for it. So instead of telling her sister about this news or about her mom's diary or about ZR, she kind of keeps it to herself. Recently, the brotherhood has been picking up girls left and right in town, and Kate's kind of really nervous about that. And during their Sunday service, it's been very heavy-handed about witchery and how being witch is bad and watch out for these witches and let us know if there's any witches around. So she's just like sweating in church, you know? Because like Kate's so anxious all the time, she's always making sure that her sisters are like in control, intact, not using their magic, so they kind of stay away from like the other girls in town. They're not really like popular girls because of the fact that their mom had passed away recently and they've just been keeping themselves locked up. So that's why Kate's surprised when Miss Ishida comes in and she's like, hey, I want to invite you girls to a tea party. I kind of feel bad that we neglected you after your mother's death. So like, come on over. You can hang out with my daughter and her friends and we're going to have a great time. And Kate's kind of like, I really don't want to say yes because if I say yes, now I have to invite you to my house and I don't want you in my house. So Kate's like, you know what? Maybe having the governess in our house helping us like be girls and stuff like that in this society is not a bad idea. As they leave the church, they get stopped by Paul, and he's back in town, and he's like, hey Kate, can I escort you back home? And you know, Paul's like putting the moves on her, trying his best to be a gentleman, and like Kate's kind of like, I don't really know what's going on. Are you flirting with me? Are we lovers? Are we friends? Paul kind of comes in and out of Kate's story in very inconvenient times. A lot of the times I'm trying to focus on Kate and her sisters, about this diary, about her mom, about them hiding themselves as witches, and then something interesting happens and it picks up in the book and it gets ruined with Paul intervening and just being super annoying about his proposal to Kate. And Kate also gets annoying because she's very like, oh, what do I do? Do I marry Paul? Do I stay here? What's the right choice? And it's like, girl, I don't know. Figure it out. And I hope you figure it out sooner or later because I'm tired. And it couldn't get any worse, right? Nope. they have to involve another character to make it into that teeny bop love triangle, but it's very, very forced. Like, we have this other character named Finn, and he's the gardener in their household. Kate's father hired him out of pity since Finn's father passed away. So Finn also pops up at really inconvenient times when Kate is stressed out, or when Kate is just like needs a break from her family. She's always there to confide to Finn and talk to him. Kate hides herself from both Finn and Paul, but with Finn, she's a little bit more vulnerable because he has a younger sister, so she can relate to him in regards to wanting to protect her loved ones and making sure that everyone is safe. Of course, you're rooting for Finn and Kate to be together, but it drags on for so long to the point that I don't care. So the next day, sister Elena is entering their home. She's going to be taking care of them, and the sisters are super excited except for Kate. While the sisters are distracted with Elena, like, Kate digs around the house and she goes into her mom's room and like is in search of this diary. She finally gets the chance to sit down and read her mom's diary, and it is not a fun diary. And she finds out that her mom, Anne, have been like investigating about all these like witchcraft and like what's going on with these girls who keep getting called witches. Where are they going? What's happening to them? So she gets at the end of the diary and she finds out this prophecy that tells her about these 3 powerful sisters who are all witches, and that they're supposed to help the rest of the witches in the coven and stop the Brotherhood, and that one of the strong witches is a witch of mind magic. So this is when the story gets interesting. You want to keep finding out what's going to happen between Kate and her sisters. The book bounces back constantly between Kate and her love interests, and the Brotherhood stalking Kate, constantly asking her, well, what are you going to do? What are your choices? What are you going to do at the end of your birthday? Did you decide what you're going to do? Who did you pick out to marry? And it's like, this to me is not important. I don't want to know anything about this. What I want to know is more information about Anne, why she was researching about witches. I want to find more information about ZR. Who is ZR? Why does ZR tell Kate to watch out and protect her sisters? Does she know that they're witches? Are there more witches out there? Another thing that keeps happening that's very back and forth is Sister Elena's constant pressure on Kate to choose the sisterhood. What's up with the sisterhood? I thought it was a regular old nunnery. Why is there such a desire and a need for Kate and her sisters to go and join them? Is there something else going on behind the scenes? There's so many questions, and I'm halfway towards the end of the book, and I'm irritated because for whatever reason, the author thinks that it's more important for me to focus on Finn and Paul and who she's falling in love with and who she wants to marry rather than anything that has to do about witches. And again, Kate doesn't tell her sisters. She's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, this prophecy can't be real. This prophecy is not about me and my sisters, right? A lot is going on, and Kate only has a couple more weeks until it's her day to pick out her future. She has options. She just chooses to sit down and complain about everything. If she chooses Paul, she'll end up having to move to a different town, so she won't be with her sisters anymore. If she chooses Finn, the Brotherhood are not really happy with Finn because Finn refuses to become part of the church. So they're very forceful in regards to bringing Finn and his family down. So if Kate were to choose Finn as like a marriage suitor, she's bringing more trouble to her and her sisters. And while Kate is dealing between those two decisions, behind the scenes, Sister Elena is kind of convincing Mira and Tess to join the sisterhood. So now Kate has to deal with that nonsense and try and convince her sisters to stick together. But Mira is already off the chain. Like, she just refuses to listen to anything that Kate has to say or her warnings, especially her warnings against Sister Elena, because she is just so infatuated with her new best friend that she just wants to do whatever possible to please Sister Elena. And this gets on Kate's nerves because Sister Elena is not to be trusted, and the sisterhood is also not to be trusted. If you're really into my description of this book, go ahead and pick it up. It's a trilogy, so there's 2 more books to go with it, and thank God, because the first book was very heavy on the love triangle and heavy on Kate's nonsense of being really indecisive and really annoying. I did enjoy the whole witchery that the sisters had, and that the fact that they were actually able to do real actual spells and real things happen and consequences and stuff like that. I liked the magic. There was more magic here than there was in the last 2 previous books that I had made a review about, but it was still kind of really faint. It wasn't towards the end where it started to pick up a little bit more. Maybe there might be more action in the next 2 books of the series, hopefully, because I would personally go and read the series just to have it complete so I could figure out what happens. I kind of wish that this book had more world building. It just kind of felt like a young adult romance novel, but as witches. Which is why I kind of enjoyed the next 2 books a lot more than I did the previous books that I reviewed. Okay, so if you liked this review and picked up this book, leave a couple of comments about it. We'll probably have a discussion about if I'm over exaggerating about this love triangle or if the book is actually interesting and I just was glossing over it too much. Again, I'm so sorry about how really ridiculous this video ended up being, and for the fact that it took way too long for me to edit and get through this. I wanted to release it on Halloween with the rest of the videos, and it's 2 weeks in November. So thanks for supporting, thanks for dealing with me. I'll see you in the other book reviews.